How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over 5 Canucks who I feel are underrated. Now, this isn't in any particular order. This isn't the top 5 most underrated Canucks of all time. This is just 5 Canucks who I feel are underrated. And the reason I kept it to 5 and didn't do 10 was maybe you guys have some underrated Canucks that you would like to comment below. If you do have any, comment below. Let me know. Maybe I'll make another video. It's a long off season. Maybe I'll make it this off season. Maybe I'll make it next off season. It's always nice to have content, and it's always nice to have you guys involved. So today we're gonna start with a player who I think is underrated. Now there is a bit of 2011 players in here, because that's mainly my era. But I did decide to go back. I tried to keep out more recent Vancouver Canucks out of this than I wanted to put in, because I feel like I definitely overrate them a little bit more, even though I do think that they're underrated players. But I definitely think that I tried to keep it away, because I feel like we overrate our players because they're more recent. We have more experience. Our memory is easy with them. So first in this list, we're going to 2011, around there at least, with Jannik Hansen. I mean, this guy was just the definition of a middle six to bottom six guy who day in and day out put the effort in defensively. He had some clutch moments in the playoffs. I mean, I think he gave the pass. Kessler had it. He gave it to Hansen. He gave it to Torres for that goal. I'm sure he had more. I'm just blanking. It's been so long. But Jannik Hansen, definitely like one of those players that I think even Canucks fans didn't really fully appreciate in those days. But then you look back on it, he was definitely one of those players that without him, I don't know if that team was. I mean, like that. I understand, like he's not that star player, so the team could probably find a player, at the same skill level. But I think he was a big part of that team, even if he was a small factor. Yeah, that's really it I have to say about Jannik Hansen. Number 2. We're sticking with the 2011 here with number 2. He's the current head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, Manny Malhotra. Now, the reason I want to put Manny in here is kind of his coaching style. If you've noticed in Abbotsford, he puts a lot of centers out there, a lot of guys who he knows can win the draw. That was what Manny was. Manny was that guy who can go out there, win the face-offs, and there's a garbage truck outside. He could win those face-offs. He was really good on the penalty kill. He was really good defensively. He wasn't a scorer at all. I mean, I didn't even go through this for Hansen. I mean, 626 games for Hansen, 109 goals, 147 assists for 256 points. This is listed by, the way they're listed is by least points to most points. Manny Malhotra just had 16 more goals while playing 300. Or not 16. He had 7 more goals, but playing about 300 more games. He had 30 more assists around. Yeah, like 32 more assists. For a couple more points, right? 295 points, 991 games, 116 points, 179 assists for 295 points. Manny Malhotra wasn't that guy who would go out and score every night, but he was that guy who would help you defensively, keep the other team away from your net, keep the puck out of your net, and he would win those key face-offs where, let's say you're in the defensive zone, you really need a face-off win, you can put a guy like Manny out there, he'll win that draw and that puck's getting cleared. So I definitely think that this part of hockey is a very underrated part. A lot with the casual fans. I know a lot of people, maybe like who are a little bit more in tune with the NHL, don't really underrate this role, especially me. I love guys like this. Tyler Mott wasn't a face-off winner, but he's a penalty killer. I played like a penalty killer when I got older. I really took on the role of just, what, I'm not going to score. I'll just be as good defensively as I can. And those are really appreciated. Like, just because you don't score doesn't mean you shouldn't be playing in the NHL, because there's guys like this, and I think Manny was definitely an underrated player for that aspect. Another one, Sammy Salo. I feel like he gets overlooked a lot. He was definitely one of our best defensemen. He's number 3, Sammy Salo, in 878 games, 99 goals, 240 assists, or 339 points. He got injured a good amount, but when he was healthy, he was definitely like a really good top 4 defenseman. He was definitely overshadowed a bit, I'd say, by Edler, because we had guys like Edler, Hamius, Bieksa, and stuff like that. But yeah, his slap shot was. I think he had an All-Star game at one point where he went and had a slap shot. It was either like the Vancouver when they still used to do those. I'm not sure if they did, or he went to an All-Star game. Like, he had a slap shot, and I definitely think that he was really, really, really good just as a top 4 defenseman. And I feel like we don't talk about him as much as we should. He was a big key in those successful teams in like the early 2010s, late 2000s, right? But yeah, Sammy Salo, definitely. He's one of my favorite Canucks of all time. Just if I had to pick a team, I needed a solid, defensively reliable guy with a big booming slap shot. You put Sammy Salo on that team. All right, on to number 4. I'm going through this video a little quickly. I'm happy because this video will be a little quicker and easier to watch. But number 4, we have Brendan Morrison. Now, there's some of these that I will explain because Brendan Morrison, through 934 games, had 200 goals exactly, 401 assists, almost 400 exactly, for 601 points. Now, that isn't like the best career ever, right? But he was a part of that big West Coast Express line, but I feel like kind of a lot of what most Canucks fans kind of remember him. Bertuzzi, Maslin, those were the 2 bigger names on those lines, but he was consistently a 60-point guy. He was clutch in overtime. He was a fan favorite. Brendan Morrison, I feel like definitely like over, when I say underrated, it's usually, I mean the entire NHL. I know we love our guys. Morrison and Salo and Hansen and Malhotra are big examples of guys that Canucks fans really appreciate, but I don't feel like the rest of the league appreciates. Brendan Morrison, I feel like, is one of those players as well because, you know, you look at guys like Naslin. Naslin was one of the greatest Canucks of all time. Todd Bertuzzi, I mean, he just attracted attention no matter what he did. And Brendan Morrison was one of those guys who was just consistent, reliable, and he really helped. He was like a part of the glue that kept this team together. And yeah, he was a big reason that line was successful as well. It wasn't just the other 2 guys. It was a 3-headed dragon of those 3. And I feel like Morrison definitely gets the short end of the stick when it comes to the rest of the league, talking about the West Coast Express and the players that they were. All right, which brings us into number 5, last but not least, Cliff Ronning. This one, I was kind of iffy on whether to put Cliff Ronning on the list here, as he had played 1,000 games with 1,137 games played. He has 306 goals, 563 assists for 869 points. Nice. And he was before like the era of like social media, so Ronning was definitely like there wasn't as much media hype as there is now, right? But Ronning is a fan favorite. He was a big part. He was the number 1 center, wasn't he? Now, when I say a lot of stuff about Ronning and Morrison, I apologize if I get some stuff wrong. I was really young. I tried to do as much research as I could. He was that number 1 center. He was one of the best Canucks, and we let him go in free agency. Now, I understand it was getting to the latter half of his career, but having a guy who was consistent point producer like Cliff Ronning was, and he wasn't like that number 1 big name. You don't really hear about Cliff Ronning too much when it comes to thinking about guys who played 1,000 games. He didn't get to 1,000 points, but still, 869 points is nothing to scoff at in the NHL, especially 306 goals. I do think that Cliff Ronning could be one of the most underrated players when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks. I think the middle in the list here, Sammy Salo might be number 1 all-time underrated. But yeah, Cliff Ronning was huge, and if we just hadn't gone for Gretzky, we probably still would have had him and maybe made a deep run. Losing Cliff Ronning was a big factor in hurting the Vancouver Canucks, and a big factor of losing that 94 team. But that is it for this one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Comment who you think is your most underrated Canuck if I didn't mention them on this list. And if you agree with any of these players, let me know in the comments below. Check these 2 videos up here. The video on your right is the video from Monday. The video on your left is the video from Friday. Right down under there. Subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.